Hey, what's up everybody? Bdf 44 coming at you with another video. Alright, so Lydia called out sick and nobody called me and told me that. So I went all the way down there for no reason, but I was able to reschedule for the 26th at 3 o'clock. Laker game just starts at 5 that day, which freaking sucks. But they had the 28th at 2 o'clock, but the Laker game starts at 4 o'clock that day, so that freaking sucks. So I just went with the 28th and deal with that. So yeah, I just went out there for not a whole lot of a purpose there, not at all. But I got a little exercise in. Was able to buy myself some broccoli to complete my meal. I decided not to walk the hills and nothing like that because the game starts at what, 5 o'clock today. So I figured, hey man, I'll just take the easy route and get back home in time for the game, as I intended to do if I would have had therapy, because it took about as long as it did because Target didn't have my broccoli. I don't know what's going on with their broccoli situation, but they didn't have any. So I walked over to Ralph's, was able to find it there, etc. So yeah man, it was just a outing that didn't have to happen, but I'll take the exercise. So yeah man, there wasn't really much I wanted to say, honestly. I just figured I'd turn on the camera and tell you how the day's going. There was no therapy. So I get to watch the game and not have any issues with that. Given the fact that I didn't think I would actually have any issues, but I did think I would probably catch the game on the road here. Walking back, I'd probably have to watch probably the first quarter or something like that while I'm walking home, but that will not be necessary today. That will be necessary on the 26th. So yeah man, what else? Confirmed that I will be going to my doctor's appointment on the 13th in Santa Monica. They sent me a text asking for me to confirm or deny. I confirmed, and I have to get transportation for that because I don't want to get before in the morning that day. So I talked to the ladies at the office about that, and they essentially said call the number on my card and ask them for transportation. So I don't know. I guess that's the plan. Initially, I found out I could do all of that through them, but apparently that's not how that goes anymore. So I don't know. Just rolling with the punches. But yeah, man, it's been a pretty solid day for the most part. I just was rushing around for no reason. I wish I would have known that. I could have bought everything that I ended up buying. But the broccoli was the only thing I bought. But I could have bought that locally and stayed in the room, did some more art because I was in a nice little art zone, but this had to be done, apparently. So yeah man, pretty tired, I ain't gonna lie. Even though I think I slept very well last night, as I was telling y'all in my previous video, my body's still not 100%. It's still a little sick. So until that runs its full course, I'd imagine that I'm gonna feel uncomfortable. And not only that, but my body, just like it does with everything, ain't really taking well to this cough syrup. So it's like you take cough syrup to get well, but then your stomach reacts poorly to it. So it's just, yeah. I think that's probably also part of the fatigue right now. So yeah, but I'm all checked in the room. That's good. And you know, broccoli will definitely help with the meal as far as the nutrition. So I'm glad I don't have to live without that today. And I'll just walk back and get ready for the Lake game. Give me a nice quick shower and then get back to that. Doing all the different things that have to do with that. And yeah, man, it's pretty nice out here. It's not too bad looking as far as the weather's concerned. Talking about maybe after rain weather is what you call this. Probably like 68 degrees, something like that. And the clouds are still above us. And it was raining a little this morning in Sun Valley when I left out of the hotel room, and it had been raining, but it dried up by the time I got out there. So, you know, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't know if it's gonna rain anytime soon, but it doesn't look like it is to me. Anyway, yeah man, I don't know what to really talk about, to be honest with you. So probably plenty, but I don't have a whole lot on my mind that I didn't already say. hearing a lot of stuff about Will Smith. You know, people coming out saying things about Will in regards to his sexuality and all of that. And I don't know, man. I just think at the end of the day, regardless of how that man gets down, it's kind of tacky that people are coming out saying they did this and that. I saw an excerpt from something that Tasha K put up there, and the dude was just talking on her platform about how he had done this and that with Will Smith. And I don't know, man. That's just, for me, I just look at that stuff as very tacky, man. Like, whether you're telling the truth or you're lying, it's a bad look getting up there talking about what you done did with who, and it was just overall a bad look. And I don't know why Tasha takes those stances as it pertains to allowing people to come on their platform and slander other people. Just being negative like that, yes, it garners clicks, but it also comes with something else too. And you know, people like being messy, but then there's vicious. There's a line that gets crossed between being messy and then just being disgusting and being vicious, and ultimately being welcoming people to really hate you. And I think Tasha does a fantastic job of crossing that line with her content. And I just wonder if there's not something really wrong there with her for that. When you consider Cardi B done already sued her into oblivion, like it really just pretty much ate up everything she's probably expected to make over the next several years. And she's still going at people, to, you know, in certain ways that to walk that fine line, so to speak. And this is another one of those situations where it's like, yo, if I'm Will Smith, there's nothing keeping me from suing you from doing this, for having this person on that platform and talking this way. Not to mention that Will Smith has somebody else right now suing him because they essentially said that he was trying to groom them, or somebody in his camp was trying to groom them in whatever way, however it goes. And so it's just like, Will got a lot of stuff going on, and then here comes Tasha K bringing this person on her platform saying just outlandish, over the top things. It's just like, yo, man, you're welcoming an energy into your life, into your family's life potentially, that is unnecessary. And there's so many different causes that are worth it, you know what I mean? There's so many things that people can stand for. If you have a death wish, you can stand for, you know what I'm saying? Like, honestly, when I think about the stuff that I talk about on my camera, I think about what Candace Owens is doing, you know, what a lot of people are standing for in this world, that probably welcome the same violence into their lives if it potentially gets out of hand in whatever way it does. Why would I welcome violence into my life so that I can smear somebody's sex secrets? If it ain't harming a child, and they're not blackmailing anybody, you know what I'm saying? Like, why would I welcome such hate into my life if it's not for a cause that can be worth it to me? To build my platform on smearing human beings and making people feel low, or destroying people's credibility when they're not necessarily deserving, or what have you, or getting in people's mess and exposing celebrities' mess. It's a bad culture. It's been a bad culture. I know there are people who, she didn't set the tone for this. Tasha K didn't. It's not like she's the first person to do this. They've been people who came before her were very successful doing this. She's just following the mold. But it was always riddled in terrible energy, if you ask me. It's always riddled in terrible energy when you expose people and, you know, talk about people behind their back, or whatever the way it would go. It would always be something that would make somebody feel bad, somebody be looked at horribly, taking somebody's image that's likely positive and putting a dark cloud over it. You know, something that's just gonna make somebody's day horrible. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It just gets to a point where it's like, when you look at how this country is being run right now, you see who's been behind all of this stuff all this time. You just think, yeah, this is one more thing that's riddled in the demonic energy that they engaged in. And we were raised with it, adapted to it, and by way of it are attached to its karma. Attached to its karma. It was something that a brother that I was reading in a comment on in regards to Instagram. It was some type of post, political post. And he was essentially saying, black people specifically, we are, in his way of looking at things, shunning the favor of our ancestors, you know, and bringing about horrible karma just by following the colonizer down the path of his practices, allowing those practices to be our practices, and the way that he does things. That's not naturally how we would have done it if we would have had control over the environment. But because we align with his power structure and acquiesce to his intentions, doing as Romans do in Rome, so to speak, we're going to welcome the karma that comes with betraying our ancestors. You know, as to where his ancestors, so to speak, were fine with this. These are their practices. We're betraying ours by following him down this path. And this for which I just described is a good example of that. You know, just trying to welcome bad energy into people's lives. It's just not, it ain't riddled in anything good. It's not gonna bring about anything good, you know what I mean? Now, if you're exposing bad people who are doing horrible things, that's one thing. But just exposing celebrities just because they're famous, so therefore you're gonna bring out all the worst things in them, I just think that's been a poor culture for a long time, man. It's been a terrible culture for a long time. And it's gonna catch up to these people who keep going with that, who keep passing that forward. It's gonna catch up to them eventually. You know? They're gonna do it to the right person, and somebody's gonna make a bad example out of it. And that's what I think is coming at some point. Sometimes people really need to see just the most horrific case scenario in order to be shook to their core away from practices that they otherwise should not really even be following to begin with. Like, honestly, people need to be shook to their core in unprecedented ways in order to say, yo, yeah, this was never really any good for us. Yo, yeah, I probably should fear what comes with doing this. Yo, yeah, this is not it. And that's what I see about a lot of human beings in my lifetime. It's like, yo, they haven't been shaken to their core. It's just like we say in a lot of cases when it comes to people who run their mouth. They haven't been punched in their mouth. You know what I mean? They haven't actually experienced enough to make them question or fear what comes with the choices they make. Some people get, like Tasha K, do get verbally punched in the mouth, get sued like this, but they still trying their very best to make a name off of making people's lives more difficult, off of doing things that are going to expose people and make them depressed, make them sad, make them feel like they want to die. And you're inspiring that. You gain a fortune off of that, or you gain fame off of that. And you're making people's lives harder. You're making people cry out to God in a lot of cases. Like, and when you do that, what you end up doing is removing the mercy that ultimately you will be due on the day of your judgment. You are removing the exception that people would otherwise give you for whatever mistakes you made. People are going to be celebrating your downfall because you made so many people unhappy in whatever way you did. Trying to entertain demons. Trying to entertain broken, demonic human beings. Because that's exactly what this is. You're not trying to entertain anybody that's a decent human being. No. Your audience is full of people who thrive off of seeing other people suffer, who laugh at the suffering of others, giggle at the suffering of others, because they're small. Very small in a lot of cases. Weak in a lot of cases. It's like what I've said a couple times in regards to myself and my own audience. Like, I don't need an audience of 1 million followers, or audience of 1 million people that can't think for themselves. or an audience of 1 million people that are gonna go along and get along with bad things for bad reasons. I'm not requiring to talk to those people unless to help change their ways. I'm not interested in just, finding 1 million nothings and entertain them into a space where they're paying me money. That's just not, that don't do it for me. That really don't do it for me, y'all. I'm trying to provide some substance. And that substance may not attract those same people. That's a good thing in my book. Now, the measures of man is not what I'm after. I'm not interested in just getting any old numbers. Who am I talking to and what am I giving them? In this era, I don't know if enough people who are making content are even considering such things because they're too busy trying to live up to the measures of man. I need to get 1 million followers. Who are these people? What are you giving them? I want to talk to everybody. What are you saying? What's going to garner that attention? What are you passing forward? What practices are you giving these people? And we don't ask these questions. Why? Because the people who are paying us to do the thing that we do care for us not to necessarily even think about these things. In the presence of our culture, we are not considering this at all. Our culture is to get 1 million eyes. Who? What are we giving them? That matters to me. And because if I have 1 billion people watching me show my backside, then I've given 1 billion people nothing to work with. If I'm bringing attention to subjects that don't provide any substance, then I'm passing forward more of the indifference that allows people to watch genocide and be fine with it. I'm not trying to pass that forward. That doesn't do anything to make me happy. That doesn't do anything to make God happy. That's not doing anything to save lives. Why do I want to do that? Because I've seen other people do it in the past and I was influenced by people who did that. You can't think past the influences in your life? That's what they've been counting on you doing, not being able to think past the influences in your life. And any unprecedented bad that comes to generations in the future because of us passing it forward to them is by way of that guilt on our hands. Only the blood that comes from different things that result from behaviors reaching unprecedented levels and people ultimately finding out the hard way, it's going to be because you passed it to them that they did. And the irresponsible generations past are why so much suffering has taken place to the present people. And the same goes for any generation that's ever lived. It was that people were not responsible enough to think past what their influences were so as to pass forward things to new generations that made them worse. Evolving poor cultures that do nothing but swallow up the substance in the world. I'm not trying to make a bad culture more strong. I'm not trying to pass forward something that's going to make my kids suffer even worse than I would have for doing those things. No, absolutely not. We call ourselves being responsible parents, but as a society and as a village, we're passing forward stuff that's going to make people worse on purpose. And the only excuse we got is because, well, everybody else did it. Okay, if you want to be that way, cool, but you're also part of the problem. As I've said a couple of times recently, man, I'm trying to be a responsible ancestor, a responsible forefather. That's what I always say, man. I'm not interested in passing forward the stuff that was passed to me that was no good for me. I'm not interested in doing that. If I'm going to call myself a dad, or I'm going to call myself a father, or somebody's big bro or whatever, then if I'm passing them something that's going to coerce them into spaces that are no good for them, then I'm not doing a good job with that. And if you can't think of that historically as you're making this content that's going to be available for people to see and people to be influenced by, then you're not responsible enough to consider yourself to be decent in the lives of others. You're just self-serving. And then we have too much of that. Way too much of that. And so that's what I'm trying to preach to y'all, I guess I can say. Yes, we've been taught how to not care about these things. And there will be people who suffer because we didn't. There will be people who go through unprecedented hardships because they followed us down this path. Let me be the voice to let you know that it's your fault that they go through that, because you pass that forward to them instead of being independent of a thinker enough to just let that evil die in your generation. Let that evil die in your generation so that your kids don't have to cry out to God because of the consequences of following you down this path. I wish somebody would have been, people who were in position to be, could have been strong enough to do that so our generation didn't have to suffer the things that we are suffering. Whatever that may look like in your life. You know, I think that it's entirely possible for minds to think about such things. We don't have to just follow blindly. You know what I mean? Giving people stuff that ain't no good for them because we want 1 million eyes on us, 10 million eyes on us, 20 million eyes on us, so I can be wealthy and give myself all my heart's desires and go in my grave having lived happily. What did I leave for everybody else? While I'm being so selfish and so irresponsible, doing whatever I can to garner whatever I need so I can be as happy as I want to be. How much of a shitty place did I make this place for all of those actions that led up to my wealth? You don't care, do you? No, I don't care, because I'm trying to get this money. Everybody else trying to get this money, I'm trying to get mine too. You know what that looks like to me? That looks like a person who is not smart enough to identify what being responsible is for the generation that he calls himself a father of. That's what that looks like to me. The person is too damn stupid to realize they're doing things that are not good for that generation. Or too damn dumb to hold themselves accountable for not being that evil. Because that's what it is. It's stupidity. That's what it is. It's sheer and utter stupidity. Educated foolishness in some cases. I'm just doing what my forefathers showed me. My forefathers showed me how to do things I shouldn't be doing. How to bring about suffering for others. It worked for them. They enjoyed their lives. They enjoyed their lives, but they died violently. They died with a lot of hate attached to them. Their legacies are that of horrible people. Well, you know, I mean, what you want me to do? I ain't reinventing the wheel. I mean, that's that type of stupidity. It's like, all right, man, you got it. And then 30 years, 40 years, 50 years down the road, so many different negative things come about because of that stupid ass person passing forward whatever they understood. I'm over it, man. I'm really over it. People are too selfish, too evil to care about the next generation. Too misguided and too stupid to think their way through that misguiding to be responsible for anyone else. But then want to have the eyes and the ears of others. Over it. America, we need to smarten up, man. Honestly. Western world, smarten the hell up. Seriously. Because people are going to really suffer because of our stupidity and our selfishness and our irresponsible nature. People are going to suffer. That dumb thing that you're doing right now, they're going to do it tomorrow and it's going to be worse for them. That evil thing exposing this person today, they're going to get tortured for that. You probably going to get famous for that. Them, they going to get this, that, and the third. You don't even want to say what's going to happen to them because they did that stupid shit. And you know why they did it? Because they saw you do it. You know why they made an example of them people the way they did? Because they were dumb enough to do that stupid thing that they saw you do back in the day. They saw you make a fortune off of being selfish and being evil. And they say, you know, I'm going to do it too. It ain't work out the same way for them. Not at all. They took that same drug or some evolution of the drug that you took. And now they're going through worse symptoms and worse circumstances than you would have ever gone through taking the stupid shit you did. But you passed forward them that drug culture, didn't you? You didn't tell them not to do it, did you? Nope. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand. Let's look at our own mirrors and figure out where we're passing forward stuff that ain't no good for others. Think past what it is we were taught that ultimately leads up to us being worse and others being worse for doing what we did. And some people unfortunately are not going to be able to identify any of those things in their own lives until they're shook to their core by something that comes from doing those things. And those irresponsible minds, they're what is so unfortunate about the future. What is so unfortunate for our generations to come, because they never were able to identify nor care enough to change the ways that they pass forward to others. And as a result, other people followed them, and it went bad for them, even worse than them. And so that's what I'm telling y'all, man. It's unfortunate, but it's true. What I'm trying to do is plant a seed that there are things that we need to start looking for in that regard in ourselves, start looking for in that regard in our environment. And with my belief in God, I can tell you can start looking for those core-shaking consequences that are going to ultimately come to help provide us some breadcrumbs as to where we're going wrong. Some of y'all gonna run into some unprecedented, unfortunate understandings when you do that thing that you shouldn't be telling nobody else to do, or when you do that thing that your ancestor did that ultimately is gonna be bad for somebody else when they do it too. You want to expose that person and their wrongdoings or whatever, that's their wrongdoings, yeah. But are you the person that should be exposing it? Maybe you think you're right for that. Okay, well, depends on what they did. Maybe it's worth it to die over that. But die you will. You'll see. And that's what I'm trying to get people to understand, man. It's them moments when people crying out, I can't believe they did that. I can't believe they did that to me. Well, you did this and this, didn't you? Yeah, but my God, that was so much worse than what it is that I did to them. Well, there are people in this world who are going to give you 20,000 fold for everything that you do to them. Ask the Zionists. They are that people. If they even believe that you killed one of their people, they want to kill 20,000 of yours. There are people doing that math. Demons out here doing that math. And you want to cross certain people? Okay, I mean, all I'm saying is if you're going to do that, make it worth it, man. Do it because you think you can expose somebody who's harming children. Do it because you think you can expose somebody who's stealing old ladies' retirement money. You know what I mean? Something that's worth it. So that if you are made an example out of, at least there are going to be a bunch of people who said, man, we satisfied with that. We can speak good highly of them and what it is they did. Not people who was trying to self-serve. You understand what I'm saying? I'm just trying to get rich and wealthy in this capitalistic society. So people like negativity, I'm gonna feed them negativity. Okay, well, when they feed you to the wolves for doing so, do understand that it would only have been necessary so that it would scare somebody else into not doing that. Otherwise, you die for nothing. We're passing forward so much of this negative energy. The devil is dancing and laughing and smoking cigars at our stupidity every damn hour of every damn day, man. I'm telling you. Especially in the Western world where everything's about capitalism, money, attention, views and followers. Everything is about just the measures of man. Are you successful? I don't care if the energy is real or not. Does it show that you have a lot of energy? You have a lot of motion, as the young kids say. Everything about the measures of man, man. Man don't even understand his asshole fully. Excuse my language, but he want to set the standards for what matters in the universe. This is why I am the way I am, man. This is why you see 6.7 thousand videos and only 500 followers. Because in a good portion of them videos, I was saying things that wasn't meant for everybody. Not in this generation, not full of followers who are looking to do this. No, I'm trying to reach the people who are going to have already seen the unprecedented followings that come from doing the things the wrong way. And at that point, who have had their souls shook by those occurrences and are now looking to listen to people finally. That's who I do these for. This is after that unprecedented thing. You want to look and say, man, who saw this coming? Who in the lot of all these irresponsible followers had the foresight and the responsibility enough to point out where we should have been preventative? And what else was that person saying? That's who I am. That's exactly who I am. Somebody who was trying to tell you before it went that bad to not do that. Before it got that bad, like, dang, how did we get here? Who cared enough to tell us not to do this? Hey, that's who I wanted to be. That's who I am. That's what the 6,000 videos is about. Well, no, a good portion of those are about the Lakers too. About my basketball team. But like my therapy sessions, yeah. And the videos I made before I started this therapy session series, yeah. Telling you about the corruption in the stock market and how these people have been building their wealth through the stock market, duplicating shares from nothing. Yeah. Telling you about them people behind the curtain who was trying to influence all of us into spaces where we were so irresponsible as to pass forward irresponsible behaviors to our kids by way of what it is that we learn from them and what they invest their money into. Yeah. When you learn about those people and you understand what matters to them, then you understand why they were giving you things that ultimately coerce you into your failure, coerce you into bad reputations, coerce you into being a problem for your people. They hated you, they hated themselves too. If you understood them better, instead of eating up all the slop that they fed you, you would know how to guard against them. And most importantly, shun within your cultures all of the slop that they fed you. But we weren't doing enough asking questions. We were doing enough of what it is that played right into their hands. Whatever it is they wanted us to do, we did. Whatever it is they were trying to sell us, we bought. Whatever it is they thought was important, we agreed. Whatever it is they said we should shun, we shunned. Including one another for not having more money. When they were making money on top of money. If they cared to, they could make us all wealthy. But they cared not for that, but to more so have us value wealth and then separate one another for it. They have enough money to make every person they're influencing that way wealthy now. All of us. They have enough to send us all into beautiful spaces. How you doing? No, sorry. Have a good one. I'm sorry. Not me. And so then what I'm telling you is, we gotta think. We gotta think about, first, just being curious enough to know, and something that we've been fed ain't good for us. Something that we've been fed is no good for us. I wonder why. Like, can we just wonder a little more about some of this stuff? Why do these people want my daughter shaking her ass, but I never see their daughter shaking theirs? They invest billions of dollars into examples of how to degrade my women. Why don't I ever see their women in any of those spaces? If they value those spaces as positive things, then why don't I see any of their kids doing this? They're sending their kids to the best schools in the world, and they're feeding my daughter behaviors that they would disown their daughters for duplicating. I wonder why. What's most disappointing about a lot of us is that we've never wondered why. Enough to actually do any real digging into these people. You know, why do they keep investing in the foods that make me unhealthy? When I start finding out most of these fast food joints that I've gone to are all owned by these same people, are they eating this stuff in their environments? No, they're not eating any of this. So why the hell are they feeding it to me? They pour so much marketing dollars into influencing us to do things that they don't do. So much into cultures that ultimately they shun, that they want us to duplicate and they want us to buy into. Why? Who are these people? Is there something about them that I need to know that'll help me understand why they want me to slowly kill myself and my brother, but have no interest in duplicating those behaviors themselves? Why are they selling me pharmaceutical drugs that give me more bad symptoms than they do healing the problem? Why do they own all the porn companies? Why? That's what we didn't do enough of, man. That's what we didn't do enough of. They're sending their kids to schools that have all of the best books, schools where you have to be super smart to get into. They just buy their way in. Some of the most obvious stuff in the world. Why they ain't teach me about insurance? Why they ain't teach me about credit building when these are essential things to getting yourselves out of poverty? But when you look at what they've invested their marketing dollars into, it's cultures that ultimately send me into spaces where it's cool to be in the streets. It's cool to do things in the streets that ultimately get me locked up. It's cool to bust my gun and cut my life down and cut my brother's life down in the name of some money. Why were they feeding us this, and why wasn't it so obvious to us that they were doing this to us? That this was happening to us? Because in our communities, our brothers was getting a deal. Trying to get a record deal. Who was giving you the money for that? We're trying to get a deal, man. We're trying to get signed. Signing what? Contract. With who? With them. They're investing that money in you, so long as you're willing to push forth this message. This message. And if you do it in enough spaces, then it'll work. You can train an entire generation of people to be drawn to this. And as they are, then you can keep on pushing that out there and they'll keep being drawn to it. Then you can say, well, people are only drawn to negativity, when in actuality, you train them to. Over years and years and generations of doing this all over the damn place. And molding the culture with their investment dollars for generations at a time to make normal what it is that ultimately tears us apart. And then they say the chicken came before the egg in that regard. Well, this is all y'all want. This is all we've ever learned. And you were right there from the beginning telling us what it is that we should want, making it normal that we exploit ourselves, making it normal that we exploit our own people, and that we be confident and comfortable as we were exploited, degraded, welcoming our own poison. And never, ever looking in your direction. Never even thinking for 1 second that we should do anything other than continue to look to you to help us with our dreams as we pass forward what we dream of, which is what it is you ultimately dreamt of for us. Never hold you accountable for any of it, ever. And I'm supposed to be just like too stupid and too generationally indoctrinated in these cultures to do anything but be that for which they've said. Sorry, didn't work on my head. Not well enough. And this is what they ultimately expect. That we are so deeply indoctrinated in all of this, that all of this works so well on all of us, that they can just go forward and do whatever from here. They have a lot of confidence that what they've done has worked. That's a mistake they made. They believe it worked a little too well. They believe it worked a little more than it did. I'm telling you, man, this is why I show you the example I do. This is why I'm somewhat, in some strange way, thankful that the Lord has made it so that I can only eat certain things. You know what I mean? Coursing me away from what has been centered for me to feast off of. Slop that has been promoted to us after every segment of every show or every sporting event that we've ever watched. Slop. It's meant to destroy our hearts, destroy our bodies, make us weaker, and pass forward that same culture to our kids so they'll do the same thing to themselves. You know, we look at people respectfully, for those who have a trouble. I want to say this with a whole lot of respect, but we look at people who harm themselves, cut themselves, and we say, yo, they need a lot of help, right? Everybody's known somebody who cut themselves in their life, you know what I mean? But then, in that same breath, we do the equivalent with how we eat, how we live our lives as it pertains to taking the influences invested by these evil demons, and go about welcoming drugs into our lives, welcoming dishonor into our lives, and various practices that are promoted to us through these things. I tell you, this is not by accident. This is not what it's supposed to be. A lot of us have never known anything else, nor have ever had anybody suggesting to you what it is I'm suggesting to you. So therefore, this is just all it is, and you just pick from what is there. No. There is a different way. There's definitely more ways to go about living your life than what it is that they've put in front of you over the course of several generations. Teaching you how to look at things a certain way, how to welcome poison into your lives. Teaching you how to be addicted to that for which is that poison. Let alone not willing to shun it, but telling everybody you need it, craving it even. That is a perversion of reality that they've spent a great deal of time, effort, and money into manifesting it for you. A great deal of investment dollars into the influence of that, for which is meant to make you welcome your own destruction. Death by 1,000 cuts. Now, if I can't say these words to the masses because those individuals won't pay me to do so, then I don't need to be talking to the masses at all. I just need to be able to say this wherever I am. And trust that the Lord will make it so that my voice is heard where it needs to be. That is exactly how I live my life. Because if I get up here and I say all of this, it ain't never going to invest that type of money in to assure that I have bot farms supplying me with all of the measures of man that ultimately give you the understanding that I'm some type of success. They ain't never going to pour no marketing dollars into nobody telling y'all this, because this undoes the money that ultimately they're trying to invest in these cultures going forward. That's going to make them significantly more wealthy than they already are. They equate to what I'm doing to making them poor, bringing them off of their wealthy spaces, getting them away from their elite lifestyles. Knowing that in this world that God created, there's a million different ways to make wealth occur. You can make wealth off of things that help people, just like you can make wealth off things that hurt people. The devil would not allow you to see that. The veil will be over your eyes in regards to that. But the reality is you can make even more money off something that's going to empower people to be better than you can off of that for which makes them worse. Feeding them poison isn't nearly as lucrative as feeding them good things. But in a world that a demon has coerced into being drawn to bad things, that's a little bit harder of a sell to these brains out here full of mush and propaganda. Mush. Without the presence of that mush, generational mush at that, that would be the reality of it. That people would shun things that would hurt them, just like they look at the person who cuts themselves and say, man, that person's not well. What it is that I see is equivalent of multi-billion-dollar corporations pouring millions of investment dollars into promoting the idea that we should all be slicing ourselves. That's what I see. Bdf 44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.